It was a frigid January night in 1982, the kind of cold that bites through layers of clothing and seeps into your bones. In the small ski town of Breckenridge, Colorado, a blizzard was brewing, cloaking the Rocky Mountains in a relentless swirl of snow. At 7:50 p.m., a young woman named Bobbie Jo Oberholzer called her husband Jeff from a local pub. Her voice was bright, tinged with excitement over a recent job promotion. "I've got a ride home," she assured him, her words carrying the casual confidence of someone who'd hitched rides countless times before. But as the clock ticked past midnight, Bobbie Jo never made it home. Hours earlier, another woman, Annette had vanished from the same town, last seen stepping out of a pharmacy into the darkening storm. By morning, a chilling discovery would set off a mystery that would haunt investigators for nearly 4 decades. 2 women, killed hours apart, linked by a single orange sock. What happened on that snowy night, and who was responsible for the murders that would come to be known as the Orange Sock Killings? Background and setup. Breckenridge, Colorado, in 1982, was a picturesque mountain town, a haven for skiers and free spirits drawn to its rugged beauty and tight-knit community. With a population barely exceeding Sun 200, it was the kind of place where everyone knew each other, and hitchhiking was as common as the snow that blanketed the peaks. The town's charm masked its vulnerabilities: isolated roads, harsh winters, and a transient population of seasonal workers made it a place where secrets could hide in plain sight. Bobbie Jo Oberholzer, 29, was a vibrant soul with a contagious zest for life. A receptionist by trade, she'd moved to Breckenridge with her husband Jeff, chasing the dream of a simpler life in the mountains. Her sister, Lori Merlo, described her as free-spirited, always happy wherever she was. Bobbie Jo was no stranger to hitchhiking, often relying on rides to get around the sprawling county. She carried a heavy brass key ring, a gift from Jeff designed as a makeshift weapon for self-defense, a precaution for a woman who trusted the road but knew its risks. On January 6, 1982, she'd gone out to celebrate a promotion, hopping between pubs with friends. Her last call to Jeff was at 6:21 p.m., promising a quick return. "I've got a ride," she said, her voice steady. Those were the last words Jeff would ever hear from her. Annette, 21, was equally spirited but carried a different kind of ambition. A housekeeper at the Holiday Inn in nearby Frisco, she dreamed of becoming a flight attendant, a goal that kept her working 2 jobs to save money. Described by her sister, Karen Reeson, as full of life, Annette was a familiar face in Breckenridge, often seen hitchhiking to and from work. That afternoon, she'd left her job early, feeling unwell, and visited a doctor who prescribed medication. By 4:45 p.m., she was at a local pharmacy, picking up her prescription. The pharmacist remembered her clearly, a young woman in a blue jacket, her blonde hair tucked under a hat, stepping out into the cold. Then, like Bobbie Jo, she vanished. The 2 women had no apparent connection. They didn't know each other, didn't frequent the same circles, and their lives intersected only in their shared habit of hitchhiking and their presence in Breckenridge on that fateful day. Yet their disappearances on January 6, 1982, would bind their stories together in a way no one could have predicted. The suspect, Alan Lee Phillips, was a 31-year-old local mechanic and miner, a man who blended into the community. Known to some as a quiet, unassuming figure, Phillips lived in Dumont, a small hamlet west of Denver, and had a history of odd encounters with law enforcement. On that same snowy night, he'd found himself stranded in a snowdrift on Guanella Pass, his pickup truck stuck in the blizzard. As he flashed an SOS signal with his flashlight, a rescue team, led by Fire Chief Dave Montoya, pulled him to safety. "Oh God, I'm saved!" Phillips exclaimed, a sizable bruise on his face raising no immediate suspicion. Little did his rescuers know, they'd just saved a man who would later be revealed as a killer. And the crime the night of January 6, 1982 was unforgiving. Temperatures plummeted to -20 degrees Fahrenheit, and the wind howled through the mountain passes, piling snow into drifts that could swallow a car. Bobbie Jo Oberholzer left the pub around 7:50 p.m., heading to a hitchhiking spot south of Breckenridge. She was dressed warmly, her blue backpack slung over her shoulder, the brass keyring clipped to her belt. Somewhere along Highway 9, she climbed into a vehicle, perhaps one she recognized, perhaps not. What happened next was a violent struggle. Investigators later found evidence that Bobbie Jo fought fiercely. A zip tie was cinched around one wrist, suggesting an attempt to restrain her. Blood stained the snow where her body would be found, and a single wool glove, a bloody tissue, and her backpack were scattered nearby. She was shot twice in the chest with a .38 or .357 handgun, the bullets tearing through her at close range. Her body was left 20 feet off the highway, near the summit of Hoosier Pass, a desolate stretch 11,542 feet above sea level. By morning, the snow had partially covered her, freezing her in place like a grim tableau. Annette Schnee's fate unfolded hours earlier. After leaving the pharmacy, she was last seen hitchhiking south toward Blue River, her home. Her blue jacket and jeans were practical for the cold, but the broken zipper on her pants and shoes on the wrong feet, discovered later, hinted at a chaotic, violent encounter. Somewhere in the darkness, she was picked up, driven to a remote valley near Sacramento Creek, 23 miles from Breckenridge. There, in a secluded spot where the snow muffled all sound, she was shot once in the back as she fled downhill toward the creek. Her body, face down in the shallow water, would not be found for 6 months, preserved by the icy conditions. Signs of sexual assault were suspected, though the time in the water made confirmation difficult. An orange sock, a Christmas gift from her mother, remained on one foot, a detail that would become the key to linking her death to Bobbie Jo's. The most chilling clue was found at Bobbie Jo's crime scene, an orange sock that didn't belong to her. It was identical to the one Annette wore when her body was discovered, suggesting both women had been in the same vehicle, with the sock likely dragged out during Bobbie Jo's struggle. The killer had struck twice in one night, targeting 2 women who happened to be hitchhiking in the same small town. The brutality of the crimes, coupled with the eerie coincidence of the orange sock, left investigators stunned. This wasn't random, Detective Sergeant Wendy Kipple would later say. This was someone who knew the area, someone who could move through the storm and disappear. Investigation. The investigation began the morning of January 7th, 1982, when Jeff Oberholzer, frantic after Bobbie Jo failed to come home, organized a search party. A rancher called him, reporting Bobbie Jo's driver's license found in his driveway miles away. On his way to retrieve it, Jeff spotted her blue backpack on the roadside, along with a bloody tissue and glove. He turned them over to police, who soon found Bobbie Jo's body on Hoosier Pass, 300 feet from a parking lot. The scene was grim. Blood in the snow, a zip tie on her wrist, and that mysterious orange sock. It was like the mountain was hiding something, investigator Charles McCormick recalled. The coroner confirmed she'd been shot twice, with no signs of sexual assault, but the bullets were too damaged for ballistics comparison. Annette's disappearance wasn't reported until January 8th, when a co-worker noted her absence from work. Her sister, Karen Reeson, drove to Colorado, clinging to hope. "We figured someone picked her up," Karen said. "You keep hoping she's alive, but in the back of your mind, you know." The connection between the cases wasn't clear until July 3rd, 1982, when a boy fishing in Sacramento Creek stumbled upon Annette's body. She was fully clothed, but her jeans' broken zipper and misplaced shoes suggested a struggle. The matching orange sock tied her death to Bobbie Jo's, and a business card in her wallet, Jeff Oberholzer's, raised immediate suspicion. Jeff became the prime suspect. He admitted to giving Annette a ride in November 1981, explaining the business card, and claimed he'd had a premonition about her body being near his home. His discovery of Bobbie Jo's backpack and his shaky alibi, an acquaintance's visit that didn't align time-wise, deepened suspicions. It felt like too many coincidences, investigator Hardkey said. Jeff passed 2 polygraph tests, and his DNA didn't match the blood on Bobbie Jo's glove, clearing him. Other suspects, like cab driver Thomas Luther, who'd attacked a hitchhiker in Breckenridge that year, and serial killer Henry Lee Lucas, were investigated but ruled out. For years, the case went cold. The orange sock, the zip tie, and the bloody glove were all investigators had. In 1989, a task force led by McCormick revisited the evidence, but leads dried up. By the 1990s, hope faded. "Every day I drive past Hoosier Pass," Kipple said, "and think, we're missing something." The breakthrough came in 2020, when genetic genealogy, pioneered by firms like United Data Connect, revolutionized cold case investigations. DNA from the blood on Bobbie Jo's glove and tissue, preserved for decades, was analyzed. It pointed to 2 brothers, Bruce and Alan Phillips. Bruce had no ties to Colorado, but Alan, a longtime Breckenridge resident, was a match. Investigators pulled DNA from his trash, confirming it in February 2021. The final twist? Phillips was the man rescued from Guanella Pass that night, his bruise likely from Bobbie Jo's brass keyring. "We had him in our hands," Montoya later said, shaken. An outcome and aftermath, Alan Lee Phillips, then 70, was arrested on February 24, 2021, charged with 2 counts each of first-degree murder, kidnapping, and assault. The trial, delayed by COVID-19, began in September 2022 in Park County. Prosecutors painted Phillips as a predator who exploited the storm to target vulnerable women. Bobbie Jo fought back, District Attorney Linda Stanley said. Her resistance gave us the DNA to catch her killer. The orange sock, the zip tie, and the DNA were damning. After a 2.5-week trial, the jury deliberated for just 4 hours before convicting Phillips on all 8 counts on September 15, 2022. On November 7th, he was sentenced to 2 consecutive life sentences without parole. The courtroom was heavy with emotion. Annette's sister, Cindy French, spoke of her mother's grief, naming her daughter after Annette. Bobbie Jo's daughter, Jackie Vukos Walker, described a childhood marked by loss, her tears soaking a horse-embroidered pillow. Phillips's daughter, Andrea Shelton, offered a surprising defense. He taught us honesty and ethics. He's a good man. But Judge Stephen Broom was unmoved, emphasizing the separate sentences to honor each woman's life. I hope the healing starts today, he told the families. The community of Breckenridge, once shaken by the murders, felt a bittersweet relief. Media coverage, from 48 Hours to My Favorite Murder, amplified the case, with outlets like Denver 7 and Court TV praising the persistence of investigators. This shows no case is unsolvable, Deputy DA Mark Hurlburt said, yet closure was incomplete. On February 27, 2023, Phillips took his own life in prison, leaving unanswered questions. Why did he target Annette and Bobbie Jo? Was he responsible for other crimes? The families, particularly Annette's mother, Eileen Franklin, now 88, found solace in justice but mourned the lost years. I thought I'd be gone before this was solved, Eileen said. Chocked. Closing reflection. The Orange Sock murders remind us that even in the quietest towns, darkness can lurk, hidden by snow and time. For 39 years, the mountains kept their secret, but the resilience of investigators and the power of science brought truth to light. Bobbie Jo and Annette were more than victims. They were women with dreams, loved by families who never gave up. Their story is a testament to the enduring fight for justice, a reminder that no case is too cold to crack, and no life too forgotten to be honored. As the snow falls over Hoosier Pass, it carries their memory, whispering a warning. Even in the safest places, evil can find a way, but so can justice.